Hey, how you doing? Val King here. We're going to do a quick demo of our SWAN interface. We'll be showing you Alan Fetter's ranch, AgriZone. He's given us permission to share this information, to show this to people. On the dashboard here, you can see at a glance the soil moisture status of his various pistachio and almond blocks. The brown is indicative of dry, the green is on target, and if these blocks were wet, it would be in blue. So if we look here down a little bit lower, you can see that there's, at a glance, you can see that 3 of the blocks are dry, 6 are on target. We can also see the health summary, the imaging. 3 of the blocks show that there's a lot of canopy activity, a lot of canopy growth right now. And if we look at this one, this is the water usage versus budget, and actually all 9 blocks are under budget. If we scroll down a little bit, we'll see that there's a water usage summary where we're showing budgets and actual and then running totals of both. And then again, at a glance, we can see the historical observations over the previous 3 days and the forecast soil moisture balance in the coming 7 days. And again, we have 6 blocks that are on target and 3 that are dry, and this helps us to see what's going to happen in the coming 7 days. If we scroll down a little further, we can see planned and applied nutrients, the major categories. There's the ability to look at this in more detail, and we'll get into that in a minute. And we also have a summary of the weather. To the left of this line here, we have observations. To the right, we have forecast. And we're also showing ET. ET will be coming from a public weather source, nearby CIMA station, or an in-field weather station. So again, at a glance, typical way farmers are using this first thing in the morning. They're checking in, they're checking weather, they're checking soil moisture status of the various blocks. This winds up being a powerful tool. You can see that there's 3 blocks three blocks that are dry, and that would be the first place that someone might be checking the following day or that day. So if we click on one of the blocks, we can drill in and we can see in greater detail the status of the soil moisture. This line here is the predicted soil moisture balance. And again, everything to the left is an observation, everything to the right is a prediction. We also see a irrigation that occurred yesterday, and we also have irrigations that are planned for the coming week. In this particular case, the moisture band, we have this particular site, they're targeting the band to be at the lower level. And we'll get into more detail on that in just a moment. One of the key things about SWAN is that the scheduling is based on a custom crop coefficient specific to that particular block, that particular variety, and those particular farming practices. So if we click here on this coefficient for the pistachios, here are the various ET numbers through the course of the season. These various growth phases you can define and define as you see fit. We help you do that. There's also the ability to define some stress factors with dry soil, wet soil, low air temperature, and high air temperature. All of these crop coefficients are based on university research. So we have a library of crop coefficients that we start with, and then we customize those again to a particular field, a particular variety, and a particular growing practices. So if we come over here to irrigation plans, and let's go ahead and pick pistachios. And so at a glance, we can see the status of the blocks for the today and the coming week. We can see that a couple of these blocks are drying down. We'll probably need some irrigation. And with this tool, we can express our irrigation as inches per day, runtime hours and minutes, or percent soil moisture. And we can do that to whatever's best suited for the irrigator ranch manager. We can also come in and we can make some global changes to how we irrigate. We can manually specify how much water we want to put on. We can also lock out a particular block. Say there's cultural activity, spraying going on, pruning going on. We can lock those blocks out so no irrigation gets scheduled for them. So to schedule irrigation is pretty simple. If we take a look at take a look at that soil moisture status before we do the scheduling, let's look at this one here. We can see it's starting to dry down. He's already got some planned irrigations. So if we choose the Optimize button, and we hit Optimize in just a matter of seconds, minutes for a larger ranch with more blocks, we'll now have an irrigation schedule. You can see that if we look at that block that we looked at before, it's put an extra irrigation in there to keep this soil moisture balance to the target range. Again, this particular ranch, the target range is on the lower portion of the band. We can target the lower portion, the upper portion. We can also target a zigzag pattern for, say, alfalfa and different field crops. And then we can choose to print this. And we print that, two things will happen. One, on the phone app, the schedule will be available to the irrigator, and then a PDF is generated that can be emailed, printed, so on and so forth. This particular ranch, the irrigation zones or the blocks are organized by soil type, light, medium, and heavy. This is both for the almonds and the pistachios. And again, our color coding of dry, on target, and wet follows throughout the SWAN interface, so we can see at a glance what the status is. These different sites and groups can be organized and named in whatever fashion is suitable for a particular farming operation. Over here at our equipment, multitude of different soil moisture sensors, Davis weather station, different flow meters, different control systems that are turning on and off, that are recording data. So all of that different equipment can be configured and included. And then if there's no equipment, we can also make these calculations without any hardware. So that's a key point about SWAN, is that soil moisture, that predictive soil moisture balance is happening every day, whether the hardware is working or not. So where the hardware might fail, SWAN is going to continue to calculate and be able to schedule irrigation. If we go over to budgeting, here's the water budget that has been generated. This is part of the pre-season planning process that we sit down with the grower and help generate a plan for the coming year. And here's all the different things that are part of that budget. The other way this budgeting tool is valuable is in the case where you don't have enough allocated water and you need to get by with less. The budgeting tool makes it possible to plan that more precisely, and also with our crop coefficients, you can actually use a crop coefficient to help you identify a deficit strategy and how to best apply a limited amount of water. If we go back to the dashboard, here's those different blocks. This is a unique irrigation system where the irrigation system has actually been designed and organized to soil type. So these are actually irrigation zones. And if we click on one of these irrigation zones, we can drill in and get more information on that. If we go over here, we can also, instead of displaying soil moisture balance, we can display site health. And site health is a measure of the NDVI. There's actually multiple indices that we can choose from. In this particular block, we have planet imaging, which is a high-resolution image that's taken every day. That daily drumbeat of imaging provides a management tool that's actionable. This is very valuable in monitoring canopy development. You can see here that around the perimeter, you've got the predictable hot spots that are showing yellow. The green and the light green areas are showing canopy development. The blue is showing the canopy is kind of racing ahead of the rest of the orchard, probably because of soil type and soil moisture balance. But again, a very valuable tool to monitor the development of the canopy. As that canopy develops, we capture that canopy development curve, and that curve winds up being a basis to monitor variation, differences between years, differences between different blocks, a good performance monitoring tool. With the daily imaging, we can detect a broken riser where water is rushing out into the field. We can see water seeping out of the side of reservoir. So it winds up being an actionable tool. You can log in daily, take a look, you see things aren't right. It gives you an actionable plan to go out and take a closer look, as opposed to having to drive to every single block, every single ranch. Really a way to focus one's time and be more efficient with one's time. And that's a quick overview of the SWAN dashboard. Obviously, there's a lot more to this. It's a simple way to check in every day, see the status of your blocks, and be able to direct your efforts more precisely about where you want to go and check on things.